with, I assume a lot of them have these limiting beliefs about money or their career or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So what do you tell them when they have that limiting belief? Do you feel like you need to break down those, like what they learned in their past, or like what would you tell somebody right now if they were like, that's me?
Yeah, well, it's if they are aware of that limiting belief, then that's half
Right.
the battle.
Yeah,
So
that's
a
true.
lot of people kind of may not even be aware of what the limiting belief is. And I
Mhm.
may kind of have an idea of it, but it's good to kind of I like to ask questions and sort of
Mhm.
want to come from them. But some people are very aware, and a lot of the clients that come to me, they are very self-aware. People who are
Mhm.
into hypnosis are generally pretty self-aware people, and I find, at least the clients that I attract, they've been on a spiritual path for a while. They've been on a path of self-discovery. They've tried this, they've tried that, and they're like you. They are
Mhm.
always kind of looking to improve and be a better version of themselves. And so most people are pretty aware of what the limiting belief might be, but if not, we might have a line of questioning
Mhm.
um, to kind of get clear about what that is. What is the belief? And maybe it's necessary to find out where it comes from. Um,
Mhm.
the beauty of hypnosis is we don't necessarily have to have all of those answers. It can be
Okay.
helpful. We don't necessarily have to go digging to
Mhm.
find root causes,
Mhm.
because the subconscious mind has no concept of time.
Mhm.
So we can start to implant new ideas and new images and new ways of being without necessarily, um, digging up the graves of the past. But
Okay.
sometimes it is helpful. It just, it kind of depends on the client. But identifying the limiting belief, and let's figure out if that's working for you. I find that it can be helpful to just look at the logic of it. Is this really true for you? Is this really
Mhm.
true? Or you sort of just kind of, with beliefs, we sort of, like, we learn them from our parents or from our
Right.
um, whoever. And
Mhm.
we tend to just sort of take them as is and not necessarily question them. But when we question them, I find that for most people, it we recognize the illogicalness of it. And so the belief can kind of just crack itself open in that way, because it's like, oh, you know what, this actually isn't even really true for me.
Right.
This isn't really even my belief. This isn't really what I choose anymore.
Right.
And that has to come from the client, because I have had clients who very clearly have a limiting belief, but I can feel and sense that they don't want to let that go. And that's not for me to decide for them.
Right.
But
Right.
if you're aware of it and you want to let it go and you want to believe something else, then let's decide what that is. Let's get clear about what that belief is and what it means to you. And so
Mhm.
there's more questioning there, is like, okay, what would you choose to believe instead? And how do you imagine that happening? And so
Mhm.
when we get clear on kind of, okay, we know what we don't want, we know what we do want, and now we
Mhm.
can go into hypnosis and start to plant those images and ideas. Because what success, whether it's financial or relationship or health or whatever areas in somebody's life, how they want to improve, that's going to mean something different to everyone. And so my job is really not to tell you what success means to you, but it's to find out what it means to you. How do you know you're successful? Because hypnosis
Mhm.
is it's a goal oriented therapy. So we don't want to just have these, fluffy ideas of success, but what does it mean to you? Does it mean that
Mhm.
you're driving a Mercedes? Does it mean
Mhm.
that you've got $100,000 in the bank? Does it mean that you feel happy every day when you wake up in the morning and excited about
Yeah.
your life? What does it mean
Mhm.
to you? And let's start to implant those beliefs and those images. The subconscious mind is very responsive to imagery. So we do use a lot of imagery to kind of help build up those beliefs and build up the logic. And then there's different things that you can do in a cognitive state. So when you catch yourself believing that belief, it's like, there it is. And
Right.
you can choose what you're doing now, and it takes repetition, or you can choose what you choose to believe now, and it takes repetition. One thing that I really like to do is look for the evidence. So when you
Right.
have a belief, whether it's, when we're, especially if we're implanting a new belief, let's start to write down the evidence of that new belief and why it's true.
Mhm.
So I am
Mhm.
successful right now, not I am successful in 10 years when I have this or that. That's a very
Mhm.
common thing, is it's sort of like there's this gap between where we are and where we want to be, and we can
Mhm.
hold ourselves hostage until we get to
Mhm.
this dangling carrot that never happens. No, you want to be successful? Let's find a way for you to believe that right now, where you are.
Mhm.
How are you
Mhm.
successful right now? How can you start to look for the evidence of how you're successful right now? Writing
Mhm.
those things down, and sort of, it's kind of like, finding those hacks with the subconscious mind to start to build the legs of the new belief.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. And one really great way to
Mhm.
do that is to look for evidence.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen, I'm writing so many notes because I'm like, I need to touch on all of these things with you. And
Yeah.
I think one
Yeah.
of the
I'm talking a lot. I'll let you talk now.
oh, you're 100% like answering all the questions and just bringing up more. So that's great. Something that I think maybe anybody could feel like maybe a disconnect with you, like they want to believe what you're saying, they want to like implement it, but there's just like a little barrier to that. I think would be like, okay, I'm going to have these positive thoughts. That doesn't mean it's going to make me successful. So like where is that link between changing those thoughts and actually doing your therapy and then getting there? Because obviously you still need to do hard work. So like I know that the brain believing these things, your subconscious believing these things, kind of, I almost feel like spirituality also comes into it there too. So I'm just curious how you make that like a concrete, like
Mm.
tangible thing for people. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
I think I'm following what you're asking, but
Mhm.
clarify if you need me
Yeah.
to. So I like to mix physical reality and magic, and that's kind of what we're
Yeah.
doing with
Mhm.
hypnosis.
Mhm.
So hypnosis alone, it can do a lot, but you still need to take physical action. You still
Right.
need to, if
Right.
you want the awesome new job, you still
Mhm.
need to apply for at different places. You still need to maybe
Right.
talk to people or network. You need to take those right actions. Um, am I on the right track with answering your
Yes.
question?
Yes. I just want it to sound, I want it to be more like um doable to anybody listening, like, oh, if I don't really believe that my brain has that much power over my, life, you know what I mean, that there's something more that they can do, if that makes sense. So yeah, you're answering the question for sure.
Okay. So if somebody doesn't really believe that their brain has that much power over their life, they're
Mhm.
probably not going to be attracted to hypnosis.
Mhm.
Um, but somebody might come to me and sort of have a sense. And then when
Right.
we kind of go through the process of explaining the way that your brain works, then that can kind of help them have those aha moments of like, oh
Right.
yeah, I can see that actually makes logical sense. Um,
Mhm.
and so I would work with somebody in that way. But generally speaking, the people who are intrigued with hypnosis have some kind of sense of um, their mindset mattering. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody who doesn't, or has no openness to that whatsoever, probably isn't going to be attracted to this work.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that can, somebody, it just takes a little bit of openness, and I think a lot of people are more and more are kind of waking up to um,
Right.
the power of their thoughts, the power of their beliefs, the power of uh, just the difference between a mindset. And I don't believe in just kind of sugarcoating and toxic positivity and all of that. I
Mhm.
mean, we want to implant, we want to have that practice, but this
Mhm.
is not about just positive thinking, and
Right.
every client is different. There's going to be people who are extremely open and very receptive. And then there's other people who are more kind of thinkers and
Mm-hmm.
might be a little bit more, um, I don't know. I don't know if this stuff really works.
Right.
I don't know. And
Yeah.
that is part of how our brain functions. So
Mm-hmm.
we have the subconscious mind, which makes up about 88% of our thoughts, behaviors, physiological responses, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
We have our conscious mind, and that's
Mm-hmm.
about 12% of our mind power. That's the part of us that has the logic, the reason, decision making, the willpower. That's the
Mm-hmm.
part of us that is kind of online every day in our day-to-day lives. And then we sort of have like this bridge between the two. And it's that critical thinker, it's that sort
Mm-hmm.
of protector of the subconscious mind. So
Mm-hmm.
when you have a thought that you want to, have this new belief about money or success or whatever it is, it's sort of, we have this gatekeeper, and this gatekeeper is like, let me check our subconscious programming. Let me see if this fits with what we know. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't fit, that gatekeeper is going to kick that out, and it's going to be like, nah, this isn't for us. This doesn't make sense.
Right.
So it's really kind of learning to work with, and we all have this. This is one of the hardest parts about my work, but I love it. I enjoy it. But it's the biggest challenge about it is that every single human being is resistant to change, even the
Mm-hmm.
change that we say that we want.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Yeah.
change that we really want, until we kind of learn to marry the conscious desire with the subconscious motivation, until we kind of get those two working together, we're going to find a way to sabotage it. That's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
human nature. And
Mm-hmm.
I when I'm working with somebody, it's kind of going to be dependent on kind of where they're at. And we have this is a bit of a rabbit hole, but everybody has different ways that they take in information. And so some people take in information in a very direct way. Some people have, if I were to say to you, wow, you look really nice today. If you're a person who accepts things in a direct way, you're going to say, oh, well, thank you. And you're not going to think anything about it. If you're a
Mm-hmm.
person who responds a little bit better to indirect, or who might be a little bit more of a thinker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who kind of is a little bit more what we would call inferred. Meaning, if I say to this type of person, you look really nice today, then you might say, what do you mean by that? Did I,
That's me.
is there
That's
something
me.
wrong with how I looked yesterday? What is there? Do I not look great? Then you'll go to bed at night and you'll be thinking, what did she mean by that? And so
Mm-hmm.
those types of people need to learn in a different way. And so that's where, when we're in hypnosis, maybe they're not going to respond to me directly giving them suggestions. They're going to respond more to kind of the roundabout way, sort of kind of even learning how to use self hypnosis with themselves. These are the kinds of people that they need it to be their own idea. They need to feel like they are in control. And really,
Right.
one thing that's really helpful to know is that all hypnosis is self hypnosis. Nobody can force you into hypnosis.
Right.
Despite what you see on the movies,
Mm-hmm.
yes, there are people out there who can use hypnotic techniques to influence. I mean, it's everywhere. It's
Mm-hmm.
in news, it's in advertising, it's everywhere you
Yeah.
go. We're bombarded by
Right.
hypnotic techniques,
Right.
really.
Right.
But ultimately, you are always in control of your own mind, and nobody can force you into hypnosis. So it's helpful to know that, and it's helpful to know that ultimately I can't make you be hypnotized. I can help you go there, but it's ultimately you who is allowing the process to happen, because hypnosis is a natural state. We all go in and out of it every single day. Right before you go to bed at night, right before you wake up in the morning, twice a day, every day, we are in a hypnotic state. It's sort of that in between awake and asleep state.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really good time to do your affirmations, by the way. When
Mm-hmm.
you're driving down the road and you miss your exit, and because you haven't you just sort of zoned out for a moment, and it's like, ah,